The valley was half asleep, wrapped in fog and silence. Liam Brooks stepped out barefoot onto the dock, the wood cold beneath his feet. The lake shimmered with soft light, glassy and still, his one refuge from a noisy world. This wasn't just any lake. It was his masterpiece. Years ago, he had designed its dam and contours himself, a reminder of the engineer he once was. Before we dive deeper into story, tell me, where are you listening from? And don't forget to subscribe and share, because tomorrow I have got something special for you. He dove in, cutting through the water like a shadow. The ripples spread quietly, vanishing into the mist. But far above, something stirred. A faint mechanical buzz. A drone hovered near the treetops, red light blinking. Its lens zoomed in on the man in the water, catching every stroke, every breath. Liam didn't notice. For him, this was peace. But for someone else watching from behind a glowing screen, this was evidence. The kind that would start a war. By sunrise, the world had shifted. Liam walked to his front door and stopped cold. A bright orange envelope was taped to the glass, stamped urgent, HOA violation. He tore it open, still half asleep, expecting a routine update about landscaping or fees. Instead, the words hit like a slap. Unauthorized use of community lake. Trespassing. Fine, $1,000. He read it twice. The lake, his lake, was now being called community property. His name was bolded, his offense listed in print. At the bottom, written in looping, confident handwriting, Karen Wilcox, HOA president. His jaw tightened. The same woman who once complained about his mailbox, being too modern, was now charging him for touching water that existed only because he'd built it. Liam's reflection stared back from the glass door. Calm, steady, but the kind of calm that comes before thunder. That afternoon, the air smelled like storm. Karen arrived, perfume thick enough to cut through the humidity, clipboard in hand. Her heels clicked across his driveway, sharp, fast, deliberate. From his porch, Liam watched her lips move, her smile polished, but her eyes cold. She wasn't just enforcing rules, and she was performing. The kind of person who liked to be seen holding power. Neighbors peeked through blinds as her voice rose, pointing toward the lake. The hum of her words carried arrogance. This isn't yours. This is ours. Liam didn't raise his voice. He didn't argue. He just looked past her, toward the water, watching sunlight glint off the surface. Karen took his silence as surrender. She left with a smirk, heels echoing against the concrete, unaware she'd just picked a fight with a man who never started one, but always finished it. The next week, the HOA made sure everyone knew. A bulletin went up by the mailboxes. Resident violation Liam Brooks. Unauthorized lake access. Someone slid photocopies into mail slots. Someone else posted his drone footage on the neighborhood Facebook page. When Liam drove into town, people stared longer than usual. Some looked away quickly. Some smirked. The whispers stung more than the fine. Every morning he found new envelopes, late fees, threats of escalation. They were trying to break him with paperwork and shame. But what they didn't see was that he wasn't breaking. He was watching, counting names, memorizing signatures. At night, his house lights glowed long after the rest of the neighborhood went dark. Beneath that glow, he wasn't just thinking. He was studying the rules that Karen worshipped, one clause at a time. Days later, the sound of tires crunched outside his gate. It was Jordan, his old college friend, a real estate lawyer who had seen too many HOA wars to be surprised anymore. Inside, maps, blueprints, and deeds spread across the dining table like battle plans. Jordan's fingers traced the lines. "You see this?" he muttered. "The HOA map ends here." He tapped the paper. "The lake is completely inside your land. They're using an outdated survey, or a fake one." Liam stared at the line, that thin black border separating lies from truth. For weeks, Karen had made him the villain. Now he held the proof that would flip her whole world. A quiet smile crept across his face. Not joy, not pride, just the satisfaction of a man who finally sees his enemy's weakness. Let them keep pushing. he said under his breath. "They're already standing on my ground." The next HOA meeting came and went, and Liam didn't show. Karen took it as victory. She laughed, called him the Lake Man, and told everyone the fine would increase if he didn't comply. Meanwhile, Liam stayed home, watching from his office window as the neighborhood lights flickered out one by one. His desk was covered with files now: HOA bylaws, accounting spreadsheets, fee schedules. Every number was a weapon waiting to be fired. He found something buried in the HOA's founding documents: an old clause about emergency reserve fees, one that gave financial control to whoever managed the community's maintenance fund, and that fund was about to fall, right into his hands. Outside, thunder rolled across the valley. Inside, Liam Brooks smiled faintly. The game had just changed, and Karen didn't even know she was already losing. Weeks passed, and the HOA thought Liam had given up. But under the surface, he was drawing lines, not on maps this time, but in strategy. Every file Karen sent him, he copied. Every update email, he archived. Bit by bit, the pattern formed: numbers that didn't match, funds that vanished between maintenance and event budgets. He realized the HOA's real weakness wasn't the law. It was math. Their own system was built on broken accounting, and Karen's pride had blinded her to it. Liam didn't need revenge yet. He just needed one signature to crumble the foundation she stood on, and that signature was already sitting on her clipboard. Liam attended the next HOA meeting, silent, respectful, unnoticed at first. Karen smirked when she saw him. "Finally ready to pay up?" she asked sweetly. He didn't answer. Instead, he proposed a maintenance improvement plan to help reduce fines for all residents, a plan that required a small adjustment in the reserve fund control clause. Karen, eager to look efficient in front of others, approved it on the spot. The board signed without reading the fine print. Hidden in that single paragraph was a sentence that changed everything. In absence of a board vote, the reserve account manager holds temporary financial authority. Liam walked out with his head down, pretending defeat. Inside, he carried the document that made him, quietly, legally, the man holding the HOA's wallet. Within days, subtle ripples moved through the neighborhood. Residents started whispering. "Why are fees delayed? Why did the HOA account freeze for 2 days? Why's Karen avoiding calls?" Liam said nothing. He let curiosity do his work. When neighbors stopped him on his morning walk, asking if he'd heard anything, he only smiled. Maybe the system's catching up with itself. Behind that smile was a storm. He had redirected the HOA's automatic fee processor, a silent reroute through the community bank. Not a dollar missing, not a cent stolen. Just one line of access changed legally, and the control quietly shifted. For the first time in months, Liam felt calm, the calm of a man who knew he held the trigger but hadn't fired yet. At night, Liam and his lawyer friend Jordan sat under the soft blue glow of computer screens. Line by line, they followed transactions, phantom expenses, duplicated invoices, inflated event budgets. Every number pointed to one conclusion. Karen had been using HOA funds for personal luxuries, a $4,800 charge for community beautification. That was her garden. $2,600 for security enhancement. That was her husband's fence. Every document bore her signature. Jordan looked up. "You could bury her with this." Liam's voice was quiet. "Not bury, expose." He printed the files one by one, not out of vengeance, but precision. He wanted this to end clean, undeniable, irreversible. The next HOA meeting was packed. Karen stood in front of the residents, smiling like nothing was wrong. She was mid-sentence about financial responsibility when Liam walked in, silent, holding a folder thicker than her rulebook. He didn't raise his voice. He simply placed the documents on the table and slid them across to the treasurer. One by one, the board members flipped through the pages. Their faces changed. Karen's smile twitched, then cracked. Liam leaned slightly forward. "Every number here came from your files," he said evenly. The room went quiet. No shouting, no chaos, just the sound of truth sinking in. Outside, someone recorded the whole thing on their phone. Within hours, it was online. By morning, the story had spread through every HOA forum in the county. The next day, Karen showed up at Liam's gate, red-faced, shaking with anger. "You think you can ruin me?" she hissed through the fence. But the power in her voice was gone. Behind her, a group of residents gathered, the same ones who once whispered against Liam. Now they looked at her with cold disappointment. A new HOA notice was delivered that afternoon. But this time it wasn't to Liam, it was to Karen, citing misuse of funds, breach of community ethics, and emergency board suspension. And the signature at the bottom, in bold ink, was Liam's. He had become the acting financial manager. By the next vote, he would officially control the budget she once used as a weapon. The irony was poetic. The same paperwork she'd used to humiliate him now crowned him with authority. And while the neighborhood buzzed with gossip, Liam stood by his lake that night, still, calm, watching his reflection ripple across the water. He hadn't taken revenge yet. But the storm was gathering fast. The boardroom that once echoed with Karen's voice now hummed with nervous silence. The same table where she sat towering over residents was now occupied by Liam, calm, precise, unreadable. A thin layer of dust coated her old nameplate, left untouched like a relic of arrogance. The air was tense. Board members who once laughed at his complaints now sat stiff, eyes low, avoiding his gaze. They weren't bad people, just scared ones, drawn into Karen's orbit because she made them believe power meant control. Liam spoke slowly, clearly. No anger, no threats. Just facts. He laid out the financial reports he had uncovered, each page revealing where the HOA's money had gone. Lawn repairs that never happened. Lake cleaning charges billed to companies that didn't exist. Karen's personal vacations disguised as community maintenance. The room shifted. A few looked sick. One whispered, "We didn't know." Liam only nodded. "Now you do." Outside, the community watched through the blinds, waiting to see what kind of man replaced their tyrant. Inside, Liam wasn't there for revenge. He was there for balance, to restore what she'd stolen, not just in dollars, but in dignity. A week later, a line of black sedans rolled up the hill. Men in suits stepped out, carrying boxes, clipboards, and sealed envelopes. The HOA audit had begun. Karen was caught off guard. She still thought she had allies on the inside. She stormed down the road in her floral scarf, shouting at the guards to let her in. "I'm the president!" she barked, waving her badge. The guard didn't flinch. "Not according to the new paperwork, ma'am." Cameras clicked. Neighbors whispered from their lawns. The woman who once fined people for leaving trash cans out too long now stood locked out of her own office, the symbol of her power slipping through her manicured fingers. Inside, auditors went through files, opening drawers stuffed with envelopes and unsigned receipts. Every document exposed another secret. Every missing dollar led back to her. When Liam arrived quietly that evening, he didn't gloat. He just stood by the window, looking out at the lake. The same lake she'd once called community property. He whispered to himself, "You wanted control? Now you'll see what it costs." The audit report came back. Karen's mismanagement had left the HOA nearly $80,000 in debt. To fix it, the only legal move was to raise the community fee. Liam announced it, a $5,000 assessment per household. The neighborhood exploded with outrage. Angry calls, messages, meetings. Some accused Liam of being worse than Karen. Others begged for exceptions. But he stayed calm, releasing every audit file publicly. For the first time, residents saw where their money had gone. Right into Karen's pocket. Then silence spread across the valley. People realized that this wasn't punishment, it was repair. The very system Karen abused was now being used to restore order. Late that night, Liam sat at his desk staring at the numbers. Karen had fined him $1,000 for swimming in his own lake. Now every household she once ruled would pay $5,000 to fix what her greed broke. It wasn't revenge. It was math. Cold, clean, poetic math. Karen couldn't stay silent. Her pride wouldn't let her. She called for an emergency community meeting. Flyers appeared overnight, taped to mailboxes and lampposts. "Save our neighborhood," they read. When she arrived at the clubhouse, she was trembling with anger. Not fear, not guilt, just raw ego. She stormed onto the stage, clutching her microphone like a weapon. "He's turning this place into a dictatorship," she screamed. "He's lying to all of you!" But this time, the crowd didn't cheer. They murmured. They whispered. Then someone stood up, a quiet man from the corner house. "You lied to us first." The tension cracked. Another woman stood. "You took our dues and spent them on yourself." A third. "You fined my husband for a mailbox color." Karen's voice broke. "I built this community." A resident shouted back, "You built it on fear." She froze. The microphone fell silent. The crowd turned away, leaving her standing under flickering lights. The sound of folding chairs filled the room like distant thunder. For the first time in years, Karen Wilcox had no one to order, no one to intimidate. Just the echo of her own downfall. The next day, news crews arrived. Drones buzzed overhead. Reporters knocked on doors. Karen's face appeared on every local headline. HOA president accused of fraud and misconduct. Resident exposes corruption hidden in plain sight. Her phone wouldn't stop ringing. The same people who once flattered her now wanted statements, apologies, explanations. She tried to hide, but the cameras found her, stumbling into her car, sunglasses trembling, pretending she wasn't crying. Meanwhile, Liam kept quiet. He turned down interviews, refused to appear on camera. His silence made him mysterious, powerful. Instead, he focused on rebuilding. Every missing dollar went back into the lake, the gardens, the roads. The place looked alive again. When the local paper tried to get a quote, he just said one sentence: "The lake was always mine." But peace? Peace belongs to everyone. The story went viral. The internet turned it into a parable about patience, justice, and karma. Weeks later, the neighborhood felt like it had exhaled. The grass was trimmed, the roads repaired, and the HOA files, perfectly organized, transparent, honest. Liam walked to the edge of the lake at sunrise. The air was cold, still, golden. He stood there, remembering the day Karen fined him for standing in this very spot. The water shimmered with quiet triumph. Behind him, kids laughed. Neighbors waved. No one was whispering anymore. The place felt whole again. Karen's old house sat empty now. The for sale sign leaned crooked, one corner rusted. She had vanished, her name reduced to a story parents told, a cautionary tale about greed and pride. Liam bent down, picked up a small stone, and dropped it into the lake. Ripples spread outward, gentle, endless, free. In that reflection, he didn't see victory. He saw balance, and as the light stretched over the valley, he whispered the final truth, one not meant for revenge, but for peace. Power isn't about control. It's about who can stay calm after the storm. For a while, peace held steady. The valley was quiet. But peace never lasts long when pride still breathes. One morning, an envelope appeared in Liam's mailbox. No stamp, no sender. Inside was a single page, handwritten in rushed ink. "You think you won, but the fight isn't over." The signature at the bottom. Karen W. Liam felt that old tightness in his chest. Not fear, but recognition. Karen was too obsessed with control to disappear quietly. He knew she'd try something reckless, and deep down he hoped she would. Because this time, he was ready. He placed the note in a folder labeled "Just in Case." Then he turned back toward the lake. The water remained calm, but a storm was already forming behind the hills. 2 nights later, the power went out across the neighborhood. Security cameras flickered off. Streetlights dimmed. Only the sound of the wind echoed across the valley. By dawn, the HOA office door was found broken open. Files scattered, documents missing, the ones from Karen's audit. But what Karen didn't know was that Liam had already digitized everything. The originals were gone, but the truth still lived online, backed up, time-stamped, verified. When she realized that, she panicked. She tried to leak false evidence to local reporters, twisting the story to make Liam look like the villain, the dictator who bankrupted families, but it backfired. The media fact-checked every claim and discovered her handprints all over the fake reports. The same cameras that once feared her now followed her downfall. Liam found her that evening near the lake, the same spot where it all began. She stood by the shore staring into the water, her reflection broken by ripples of wind. "You destroyed me," she said, voice shaking. Liam replied quietly, "You did that yourself." She turned, desperate, furious. "You think you're better than me?" He didn't answer. He didn't have to. The silence between them said it all. The wind howled across the water. Karen's eyes softened for a moment, a flash of regret, buried under years of arrogance. "It was never about the lake," she whispered. "It was about control." Liam took a step closer. "And that's why you lost it." Then he walked away, leaving her standing in her reflection, watching her power vanish like ripples fading into stillness. Days later, news broke. Karen Wilcox had been arrested for HOA fund embezzlement and document tampering. The community gathered outside the courthouse as she was led out in handcuffs, the same courthouse where she once fined residents for weeds and paint colors. Liam didn't attend the hearing. He didn't need to. The sound of the gavel echoing through the hall was enough, sharp, final, symbolic. The judge's verdict was short: community service, restitution, and permanent ban from all HOA leadership roles. That night, the neighborhood felt lighter. No more fear, no more letters taped to doors. Just the quiet hum of crickets by the lake. Months passed. Under Liam's care, the HOA transformed into something new. Not a council of control, but of cooperation. Residents now voted openly on projects. Fees went into beautifying the community. New lights, fresh paint, repaired docks. The lake became the heart of the valley again. Families held picnics there. Kids learned to fish. Even the older neighbors, once afraid of Karen's rules, started to smile when they walked by. Every time Liam saw it, a small pride stirred in his chest, not the pride of winning, but of restoring what was rightfully his. The lake had always belonged to him by law, but now it belonged to everyone by peace. One morning, a letter arrived in Liam's mailbox. The handwriting was familiar, neat, careful. It was from Karen. Inside was a single line: "I understand now. Power without kindness is just fear in disguise." There was no return address, no name, just silence after it. Liam folded the letter gently, placed it in the same folder where the first note had been, just in case. 2 letters. One threat, one apology. Perfect symmetry. He didn't feel joy. He felt closure. The final scene returns where everything began, at dawn by the lake. Mist rolled across the surface, sunlight spilling over the water like liquid gold. Liam sat on the dock, coffee in hand, listening to the soft lap of waves against the wood. The world had come full circle, but quieter, wiser. He looked out across the valley, his valley, and saw harmony where there had once been division. No HOA battles, no fines. Just people living freely, peacefully, gratefully. A gentle breeze rippled the surface, and for a moment, Liam imagined the lake whispering back, "You kept the calm." He smiled, not the smile of victory, but of peace earned through patience. And as the camera fades out, a single line lingers in narration over the sound of birds and water. Justice isn't about getting even. It's about restoring balance, one ripple at a time.